Hello everyone, I'm Chef Drake from HEB. HEB is one of the top supporters for Emancipation Park for Juneteenth. So of course, I'm gonna be dishing out some of my favorite recipes today. I'm gonna be doing a fried lobster tail with a side of grits. It's gonna be delicious. And of course, I'm gonna be making a watermelon mint mimosa, of course, mocktail. So folks, let's go ahead and get into it. I know you're excited because I am. So let's get cooking. So for our first recipe, this is what you need. So here in front of me, you guys are gonna need your lobster tails. I'm using our lobster tails from the seafood department. I love using them just because they're gonna be super sweet, buttery, and delicious when it comes time to enjoying them. For our fry, I'm using the Hill Country Fare crispy fish fry. That fish fry is gonna leave that golden brown crust all throughout that lobster tail, and it's gonna be delicious. Also, for our grits, I'm using the Hill Country Fare 5-minute quick grits. I love using those quick grits just because they're 5 minutes. They'll get you in and out of the kitchen in no time. Of course, we're gonna be bringing some body to these grits, so we're gonna be throwing some cheese, butter, and cream in them. And last but not least, a huge tip to when it comes to making your grits, don't use water. I'm using our HEB organic chicken broth. So guys, let's go ahead and get into this. So to start off, we're gonna go ahead and open up our fish fry. And this fish fry is, like I said, it's gonna be super delicious because it's gonna be nice and crispy when it comes time to frying up our lobster tails. Now it's time to butterfly our lobster tails. To butterfly those lobster tails, I'm not gonna cut them all the way through like a butterfly. I'm just gonna cut the top shell to pop the meat out. Now I'm gonna leave the shell attached to the lobster tail just for presentation. So to prep our lobster tails, I'm just gonna go ahead and stab down at the tail piece of the lobster to make it cut through. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just come right off the top. Now, if you're at home, to make this a lot easier, you can use kitchen shears. Next, like I said, I'm gonna pop open the shell. And then with your 2 fingers, you're gonna get that meat right out the lobster shell. And then come off on top and pull up. And that is how you do a beautiful restaurant presentation of your lobster tail. Now, it's time to go ahead and drench our lobster tails into the fry mix. So I like to go ahead and just toss that fry mix all over that lobster tail. And also a little tip that I do is I always press in the fry mix into our tails, just so every piece can get that nice golden crust on it that we're looking for. So I never just season the lobster tail and then drop it straight in. I normally let the fry mix sit on the lobster tails for a couple minutes. So while it's sitting, I'm gonna go ahead and work on these delicious grits. So for your grits, like I said, I have that chicken broth already going. We're gonna go ahead and open these grits up. And we're gonna go ahead and shake them in there. Now, depending on how much grits you're making, determines how much grits you're gonna add into your broth. So I'm gonna do about a cup of grits in mine, since I'm making a lot of grits. Now make sure you go ahead and mix in your grits, because no one likes any clumpy grits, I'm telling you. Growing up, I hate whenever my sister, she would make grits, and they used to just be so crumpy and dry. It was just, I couldn't tell her because she was my sister, but you know, I was just like, sis, I don't know. Now, of course, look at your grits, and the one way that I like to determine if you have enough in there is just after you add them in, you should start to see the grits floating up in there. So I'm looking at mine, and I think I need just a little bit more grits. And there's nothing wrong with adding some more in there, but you wanna make sure that you stir it in there. So I'm gonna give a quick stir, and that's perfect. Make sure your heat's on a low, because that low temperature is just gonna keep cooking those grits. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and start frying up those lobster tails. So for the lobster tails, you wanna make sure that the grease is nice and hot. And of course, a quick test to make sure is you just take a little bit of that fish fry. And if you hear that pop and see that sizzle, then you know your grease is hot enough for frying. So let's go ahead and drop in those lobster tails. Now I'm gonna do each lobster tail one by one, just because you wanna make sure you get that good consistency all throughout. And I am dropping my shell into the fryer. Now, of course, our lobster tails, they don't take too long in the fryer, maybe about 4 to 5 minutes, and that's it. Get your paper towel ready, because when your lobster tails are done, you want to make sure you place them in there so they can just dry. Ooh, look how beautiful that lobster tail is right there, folks. Y'all see that? It is nice, golden, beautiful. I'm just gonna drop it on the shell side. And that lobster tail is just like cooking your shrimp. They don't take long at all. And that right there, folks, is a beautiful deep fried lobster tail. So let's go ahead and check in on our grits. So we're gonna make sure we stir our grits because we don't want them to clunk up on us. And whenever you see your grits are just about nice and firm, is the perfect time to go ahead and add in the cream and also butter into your grits. So I'm gonna drop in a half a cup of cream into our grits. And that's gonna bring that creaminess out on those grits. So while our grits have that cream in there, we're gonna go ahead and add in our cheese. And the cheese, it is optional. I just love a good cheesy grit. And last but not least for the grits, we're gonna throw in some butter. You have to have butter in those grits. I'm telling you, no matter if they're savory, if they're gonna be just plain grits in the morning for breakfast, you have to have that butter in your grits. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour my lobster tail. Ooh, folks, look at that. I'm telling you, that is beautiful right there. That is a masterpiece just right there. Just look at that, dive into it. Dive into that, folks. You see how beautiful that golden lobster tail is? That is perfection at its finest, folks. So let's go ahead and add the butter into these grits. I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon of butter. Go ahead and mix that up. Ooh-wee, folks, let me tell you, these grits, they look so good. And to know these grits are perfect, every time I make them at home like this, my friends are like, man, these mashed potatoes are so good, but they're not mashed potatoes because they're like grits, of course, but they're just amazing, folks. Because they're just so savory, it doesn't taste like your ordinary breakfast grits. And the trick is, it's just that chicken broth. So now that those grits are ready and the lobster tails is ready, it's time to go ahead and start plating. So to take our lobster and grits to a whole nother level, we're gonna be using our Bayou Brothers Creole sauce. That Creole sauce can be found at your favorite H-E-B by The Cooking Connection. So let's go ahead and get plating these lobster tails. First, I'm gonna start off with my bed of grits. And next, we're gonna put that juicy lobster tail right on top of those grits. And then we're gonna take that Bayou Brothers Creole sauce and literally just ladle that right on the sides of that wonderful plate. That Bayou Brothers Creole sauce is gonna be your tomato base with that wonderful Cajun Trinity in there, and it's amazing. That Trinity is gonna be your peppers, your onions, and celery. And it has a full kick of flavor in there. And of course, for garnish, we're just gonna top it off with a little green onion. And that is how you prepare your lobster and grits. So right here is our lobster and grits. Of course, we're gonna have to wash it down. So let's go ahead and make our watermelon mint mocktail mimosa. Woo-wee. So to make our watermelon mint mocktail mimosa, first we're gonna need fresh watermelon, mint, and also our 1877 H-E-B's mineral water. So to start off making our mocktail mimosa, first we're gonna go ahead and take our watermelon and place it into the blender. And of course, you gotta have mint for the watermelon mint. So we're dropping in a few pieces of mint leaf. Next, it's time to go ahead and blend everything all together. So now that we blended our watermelon and mint together, now it's time to strain it because we don't want any of the pulp into our mimosa. So let's go ahead and get into that. So now that you strained your watermelon mixture, now it's time to take your champagne flutes, and now we're gonna add our watermelon inside. And to finish it off, we're using that mineral water, the 1877 by H-E-B. So to garnish, I'm gonna go ahead and drop in a fresh piece of watermelon and also take just a little bit of a mint leaf and put that right there. So that's how you make your watermelon mint mimosa. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out your H-E-B cooking connections because we are now back open for business. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoy. Cheers.